Well, hey everyone, welcome to day 6 of our 21 days of prayer. Today we're going to take a look at a passage in the Gospel of Luke chapter 7, and it's a story of an unnamed woman. Some scholars believe it was Mary of Bethany because the story takes place in Bethany. Other scholars believe it was Mary Magdalene because the woman had great sin, the Bible says. But whoever it was, it's the story of a woman named Mary, and she has what's called an alabaster box. And she comes to the home of a Pharisee who is hosting Jesus there that night, and she breaks this expensive box at the feet of Jesus. And then she proceeds to take her hair and to wash the feet of Jesus, worshiping him. And the Pharisees are a little bit upset about this scene. They don't like the fact that she's wasting so much money and expensive perfume. They also don't like the fact that she herself is such a sinner. And so one of them responds and says, Jesus, if you were really God or you were really a prophet of God, you would know who is touching you right now. And Jesus gives one of his powerful parables that he's known for giving in this passage. And I'll read it to you in verse 41. He responds to the Pharisee that's challenging him and says, a certain moneylender had 2 debtors. One owed 500 denarii and the other 50. And when they could not pay, he canceled the debt of both. Now, which of them did he love more? And Simon answered, the one, I suppose, for whom he canceled the larger debt. And he said to him, you have judged rightly. And then Jesus goes on to say that he says, ever since I walked in here, Mary has been worshiping me. She's been washing my feet. She's been kissing me. She's been taking care of me. And he says, all of you have not done that. And he says he recognizes that Mary is the one that has great sin, and she sees the forgiveness that Jesus has offered to her. And what's interesting in this story is this isn't so much a story of Mary being this horrible sinner, but rather that she was the one in the entire group who was aware of her sin. A few years ago, I had moved my family to Kentucky, and I was going to pastor a church in the city of Owensboro. And as we moved there, the house that we were supposed to move into wasn't ready yet. And so the first Sunday that I was there, I didn't have a home to stay in. I had to go back home that night. And then it happened again the next week and the next week. And after about 3 or 4 weeks, the people from my church were getting frustrated for me. And so one of the wealthier men in the church, he just came to me and he said, Dan, he said, if it would make life easier for you and your family, he said, I have a home that is for sale, and he said, nobody's living in it right now. Do you guys just want to move in there for a few weeks? And so without even seeing the home, I agreed to it because we needed a place to stay. When I went and saw the home that Sunday with that man from our church, I began taking pictures of it. It was the most beautiful home in the most expensive neighborhood I'd ever seen before. And as I started to send those pictures to my wife, she couldn't believe that's where we were going to be living for a few weeks. Well, a few weeks turned into 5 years, and we lived in that beautiful home, paid very minimal rent to that very generous man. And as we were living there in this home that we never could have afforded, in a neighborhood that we would have never even thought to move into, there were times where my children, my 3 little boys, would complain. They'd complain about the size of the yard, or they would complain about, one of the 4 or 5 bathrooms not being completely finished. And I would catch them and tell them, guys, you're never going to complain about this house. And I would tell them, you're never going to live in a house this nice again. This is far beyond what we could afford, far beyond what we deserve. And I was truly grateful every day that we got to spend in that home. And I didn't want to hear any complaining whatsoever about that house. And I want to ask you this as we wrap up this devotional here. Are you grateful for the things that God has given you? Are you, like Mary, are you aware of the forgiveness and the price of your salvation and what that cost Christ? And if you're truly aware of that, your attitude will be one of a response like Mary's was, of just simply worshiping Jesus. Or are you like the Pharisee who doesn't truly understand exactly all that Jesus has done for them? Have a heart like Mary today. Recognize exactly all that God has given to you and be grateful for that.